Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 25. Nirmuhustat Parakarnapura.
हरे मुँह तत्पर कर्णपूरा
Punabhidhanena Vijrimbhamanaya.
गुणभिधानेन वृजम्भमाणया
Atyahi asanga sadasati anatmani.
असति अनात्मनि
Yanir guni brahmani chanjasa ratihi.
निर्गुणे ब्रह्ममानि
सारति.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The devotee should gradually increase the culture of devotional service by constant hearing of the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These pastimes are like ornamental decorations on the ears of devotees. By rendering devotional service and transcending the material qualities, one can easily be fixed in transcendence in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This verse is especially mentioned to substantiate the devotional process of hearing the subject matter. A devotee does not like to hear anything other than subjects dealing with spiritual activities or the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can increase our propensity for devotional service by hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from realized souls. The more we hear from realized souls, the more we make advancement in our devotional life. The more we make advancement in devotional life, the more we become detached from the material world. The more we become detached from the material world, as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the more we increase in attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if we really want to be detached from this material world, we need to hear more and more from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Bhagavad Gita. That is said not from the professional reciters, but from the realized souls, from the pure devotees. Therefore, a devotee who actually wants to make progress in devotional service and go back home, back to Godhead, must lose interest in sense enjoyment and associating with persons who are after money and sense gratification. This is the advice of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Niskinchanasya Bhagavad Vachano Mukhasya Param Param Jigmisor Bhava Sagarasya Sandarshanam Vishainam Athayoshitam Cha Ahanta Hanta Vishabhakshana Topi Asadhu. Caitanya Caritamita Madhya 11.8. The word Brahmani used in this verse is commented upon by the impersonalists or professional reciters of Bhagavatam, who are merely advocates of the caste system by demoniac birthright. They said that Brahmani means the impersonal Brahman, but they cannot conclude this with reference to the context of the words bhaktya and gunabhidhanena. According to the impersonalists, there are no transcendental qualities in the impersonal Brahman. Therefore, we should understand that Brahmani means in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as admitted by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, wherever the word Brahma is used, it must refer to Krishna, not to the impersonal Brahman effulgence Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shabdayate Bhagavatam 1-11. So Prabhupada is helping us understand that, some people might say that there are no qualities, Krishna has no qualities, but we have to understand that Krishna has all spiritual qualities. How can we have something that God doesn't have? The origin is Krishna. So of course he has all the qualities, but he has spiritual qualities. Even the impersonalists understand Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Shankaracharya also in his Bhagavad Gita, he says that Narayan is beyond this material manifestation. He clearly mentions that Narayan is beyond, means he's transcendental, and that he's a person. And Shankaracharya also refers that this Narayan is Krishna, the son of Devaki, the son of Vasudeva. So he is also saying that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. This is just, he's juggling with some words to for people who want to be misled. But even he is clearly saying that the Supreme is a person. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan can all be taken in total as Brahman, but when there is reference to the word bhakti or remembrance of the transcendental qualities, this indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not the impersonal Brahman. How can we have some reciprocation with some light? What can we reciprocate, Yeah, but we can reciprocate with a person, isn't it? So our eternal reciprocation is with the eternal person, Krishna. Yadarati Brahmani Nashtaki Puman.
Yadarati Brahmani Nashtiki Puman.
Acharya Vangya Naviragaram Hasa.
Acharya Vagyan Viragrahamsa.
Dahati Aviryam Hridayam Jivakosham.
Dahati
Dahatyaviryam hridayam jeevakosham.
Panchatmakam yonim ivo hiti to agnihi.
Panchatmakam
Yonim
yoto
Tati Agnihi.
Upon becoming fixed in his attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by the grace of the spiritual master, and by awakening knowledge and detachment, the living entity situated within the heart of the body and covered by the 5 elements burns up his material surroundings. Exactly as fire arising from wood burns the wood itself. It is said that both the Jivatma, the individual soul, and the Paramatma live together within the heart. In the Vedic version, it is stated, Hridihi Ayam Atma. The soul and supersoul both live within the heart. The individual soul is liberated when it comes out of the material heart or cleanses the heart to make it spiritualized. The example given here is very appropriate. Yonim ivheto gnihi. Agni or fire comes out of wood, and by it the wood is completely destroyed. Similarly, when a living entity increases his attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is to be considered like fire. A blazing fire is visible by its exhibition of heat and light. Similarly, when the living entity within the heart becomes enlightened with full spiritual knowledge and detached from the material world, he burns up his material covering of the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, and becomes free from the 5 kinds of material attachments, namely ignorance, false egoism, attachment to the material world, envy, and absorption in material consciousness. So attachment to the Supreme Lord gives us liberation. When the soul, he is so attached to Krishna, then right now we are covered by this body and this material consciousness. So, but when he's completely absorbed in Krishna, his attachment to Krishna is so much, then he's detached from the material world. He doesn't care for the material world anymore. He's not attached to the body anymore. That's how it says that he burns up his material covering. He's not concerned anymore with because actually if we see this material world, the elements are this: earth, water, fire, air, ether. We are attached to these elements and becomes free from 5 kinds of attachment: ignorance, false egoism, attachment to the material world, envy, and absorption in material consciousness. Therefore, Panchatmakam, as mentioned in this verse, refers to either the 5 elements or the 5 coverings of material contamination. When these are all burnt into ashes by the blazing fire of knowledge and detachment, one is fixed firmly in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we can see how by hearing and chanting, constantly hearing and chanting, engaging in devotional service, we get knowledge, transcendental knowledge, and we get detached from the material world. And then when one is fixed in knowledge, then one can completely gives up his attachment to this material elements. Unless one takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and advances one's attraction for Krishna by the spiritual master's instructions, the 5 coverings of the living entity cannot be removed from the material heart. The living entity is centered within the heart, and to take him away from the heart is to liberate him. This is the process. One must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and by his instruction increase one's knowledge in devotional service. Become detached from the material world and thus become liberated. So one may say that, oh, how about a heart transplant? Let's do a heart transplant, and that's how the soul can be liberated from the body, and the soul, no more material body. No, but it's just a seat. The soul is still in the body. It's just changing from one chair to another, Srila Prabhupada would say. In your house, you have so many chairs. You just move from one chair to another. The heart is a sitting place for the soul. The real way of liberation is we need to get attached to Krishna. By hearing, by chanting, must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And in this way, become detached from the world and become liberated. An advanced devotee, therefore, does not live within the material body, but within his spiritual body. Just as a dry coconut lives detached from the coconut husk, even though within the husk. So this is why the pure devotee's body is called spiritual, because his consciousness is completely spiritual. His mind is spiritual. His intelligence is spiritual. His ego is the real ego. So Prabhupada is giving the example. Dry coconut is inside the shell, but it's not attached to the shell. When you shake it, you can hear it. So the liberated soul, he's inside the body, but he's not attached to it at all. The pure devotee's body is therefore called Chinmaya Sharira. Chinmaya Sharir, the spiritualized body. In other words, a devotee's body is not connected with material activities. And as such, a devotee is always liberated. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Srila Rupa Goswami also confirms this. Iha yasya hare dasye karmana manasa gira nikhilasva api avasthasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. Whatever his condition may be, one who is engaged fully with his body, mind, and speech in the service of the Lord is liberated even within this body. So we can see that if we take up the process of devotional service, we don't have to wait to die to become liberated. Can become liberated even while we are within this body. So Srila Rupa Goswami, he is saying, who is a liberated person? Who is fully engaged in the service of the Lord with his body, mind, and words. So even though he'll be in the material body, he is liberated because he's situated in his right consciousness. Is that okay?
Yes.
So how can we come to this platform? What are we just now reading?
Hearing and chanting. This is the remembrance. Listening. Hearing.
Yes, hearing and chanting. That's right. Thank you. Hearing. Hearing. That's what's the stress was given in this verse. So hearing and chanting. When we hear well, then we can chant. That's the beginning of devotional service. And then how it can detach us from this material world and get attached to Krishna and give us liberation. So that's why we are constantly advised to hear and chant. Daddashayo mukta samastatad guno.
Dattayo mukta
Nevatmano bahirantarvichashte.
na
Paratmanoryadvyavadhanam purustat.
Paratmanoryavadhanam purastat
Swapne yatha purushastadvinashe.
swapne
When a person becomes devoid of all material desires and liberated from all material qualities, he transcends distinctions between actions executed externally and internally. At that time, the difference between the soul and the supersoul, which was existing before self-realization, is annihilated. When a dream is over, there is no longer a distinction between the dream and the dreamer. As described by Srila Rupa Goswami, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, one must be devoid of all material desires. When a person becomes devoid of all material desires, there is no longer need for speculative knowledge or fruitive activities. Yeah, because if there's no material desire, one does not want the fruits of the karma. Huh? He does not lack. He's not saying, oh, I'm going to act in this way because I want this, whatever it may be, name, fame, adoration, whatever. So he has no desire. So there's no need for fruitive activities or speculative knowledge. In that condition, it is to be understood that one is free from the material body. The example is already given above. A coconut, which is dry, is loosened from its outward husk. Is this example okay? I mean, Prabhupada is saying coconut, dry coconut, not attached to the shell. So like that, a liberated person, not attached to the body. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the stage of liberation. As said in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.10.6, Mukti liberation means Swarupena Vyavasthitihi, being situated in one's own constitutional position. All material desires are present as long as one is in the bodily concept of life. But when one realizes that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, his desires are no longer material. A devotee acts in this consciousness. In other words, when material desires in connection with the body are finished, one is actually liberated. So right now, what we are thinking is, I'm this body. Let me try to make this body as comfortable as possible. Let me adjust the situation so I can be happier, happiest. That's how we are acting. That is conditioned life. Liberated life, when we can understand, oh, I'm not the body, I'm eternal part and parcel of Krishna, I'm eternal servant of Krishna. My duty is to engage in this loving relationship with Krishna. So then all his duties are spiritual automatically, because that's what the intention is. That's what his consciousness is. So it's not that he doesn't act. He does all kinds of activities, but the consciousness is different. The intention is different. When one is liberated from the material qualities, he does not do anything for his personal sense gratification. At that time, all activities performed by him are absolute. In the conditioned state, there are two kinds of activities. One acts on behalf of the body, and at the same time, he acts to become liberated. The devotee, when he is completely free from all material desires or all material qualities, transcends the duality of action for the body and soul. So Prabhupada is explaining to us that when we are not liberated, when we are thinking that we are the body, then we are acting as we are the body, but at the same time, we are also engaging in activities which can help us to get liberated. No? We are hearing, chanting, worshipping the deity, all these. So we are doing two kinds of activities. One is we are thinking we are the body. Another is we are, engaging in devotional service also. So then Prabhupada is trying to explain that one is free, no more material desires. No more material desires. So then he doesn't have the bodily concept of life anymore. So then the only way he's acting is because he's thinking, he's already understood I'm the soul. And that's how he's acting. We say that, theoretically we know we are the soul, but we don't realize it. So we still act as if we are the body. And because theoretically we understand we are the soul, we are trying to engage in activities that can help us get liberation. But when one is liberated already, he does not act as the body at all then. So there's no difference then in his activities. This is what they're trying to say. Then the bodily concept of life is completely over. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami says, Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikhilasva api avastha su jivan mukta sa uchyate. When one is completely fixed in the service of the Lord, he is a liberated person in any condition of life. He is called Jivan Mukta, liberated, even within this body. In such a liberated condition, there is no distinction between actions for sense gratification and actions for liberation. When one is liberated from the desires of sense gratification, he has no longer to suffer the reactions of lamentation or illusion. So because he's completely understood, he's not the body, completely understood he's the soul. So he does not act for sense gratification at all. Whatever are his activities, they're completely spiritual. They're pure devotional service. He's acting to please the senses of Krishna. He's not acting to please his own senses. And that's why there is no lamentation. There is no illusion. Activities performed by the karmis and jnanis are subject to lamentation and illusion. But a self-realized liberated person, acting only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, experiences none. We are in lamenting always, oh, why it is not like that, it should have been like this, I should have done this. And our illusion, we continue thinking we are the body. I'm not happy now, I will be happy later, But a self-realized person, he's understood, I am eternal servant of Krishna. So he acts in that way.
Why does it say the karmis and jnanis are subject to lamentation and illusion?
Because of always, we are lamenting, no? Oh, I wish it was, the situation was not like this.
And jnanis also, it says.
Yeah, karmis I can understand. Jnani is how we could understand that they are lamenting. You mean on the path of knowledge? How could they lament?
How no? Yeah.
How could they lament if they are on the path of knowledge, you mean, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, probably thinking, oh, I'm not God yet, I'm gonna become God soon. I don't know. Illusion
Or
for
with
sure is
knowledge, the ego comes, maybe, is it?
ego.
Due to that?
Yes, yes, yes. With knowledge, dry knowledge will give rise to ego. Yes. And illusion, of course, is there.
Illusion, yeah.
illusion is there because the consciousness is not yet purified that I'm eternal servant of Krishna. You know?
Okay.
So, yeah. This is the stage of oneness or merging into the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that the individual soul, while keeping his individuality, no longer has separate interests. He is fully in the service of the Lord, and he has nothing to do for his personal sense gratification. Therefore, he sees only the Supreme Personality of Godhead and not himself. Right now, we are just seeing ourselves. We are not able to see the Paramatma. We're not able to understand that he's within our heart. The only thing we know, I want to be happy. Right now, I am not happy. I want to change the situation so I can be happy. But the liberated person, he does not see himself as separate from Krishna. He is completely understood. I'm servant of Krishna. So what I have to do is make Krishna happy. Let me act in such a way that Krishna will be happy. That's what he's thinking. His personal interest completely perishes. When a person comes out of a dream, the dream vanishes. While dreaming, a person may consider himself a king and see the royal paraphernalia, his soldiers, etc. But when the dream is over, he does not see anything beyond himself. Similarly, a liberated person understands that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, acting in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Lord. And as such, there is no distinction between himself and the Supreme Lord. Although both of them retain their individuality, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. This is the perfect conception of oneness in relation to the Supersoul and the Soul. So at liberation, it doesn't mean that we become supreme. No, we don't become the Supreme, but we want to serve the Supreme. We understand that we are part and parcel of the Supreme. So simultaneous, one and different. We are part and parcel of the Supreme, so simultaneously one. And different, that we are not Supreme, we are individual, and it's our duty to serve the Supreme Lord. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so we can see by hearing from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we can reach such a high platform, liberated platform, gradually. We can't expect, okay, today I started reading and so today I should get liberated. Well, that's what happens. The path begins already, the path opens. As soon as we start hearing and chanting, the path already opens. And we have to continue. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.